What about Francisco Alvarez? You have any update on him?
Yeah, this one was much more surprising. Alvarez was out there earlier today taking batting practice. Remember, when he got shut down with that sprained right thumb ligament, this was supposed to sideline him, like do nothing for 10 to 14 days. And that time period has not passed. He's already taking batting practice. And guess what? Francisco Alvarez is going to go out and have a minor league rehab assignment either beginning Wednesday or Thursday. So this is a pain tolerance thing for Alvarez. The fact that he's coming back so soon means that he's not feeling enough pain to keep him shut down. So if he goes out there now, facing live pitching is a different animal. But if he goes out there and is able to do that, and even better, is able to catch and throw with that ligament in his right hand, there is no reason why Alvarez can't be back here in early September, which would be a huge, huge boon for the Mets. Now, it's no guarantee. He has to show that not only can he swing without pain, but he can do it effectively. But if he can do that, that's, again, another lineup lengthening ad for the Mets.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you specifically defensively here. So when, you mentioned he could come back early September. How far along are we in the defensive progression? You have any idea with that with Alvarez?
Not far, and that's what's interesting, Sal, because when he first suffered this injury, all the talk from Mets officials was, well, hitting's going to be the issue. Defense shouldn't necessarily be an issue. Today, Carlos Mendoza was a little more measured, saying the hitting looks good so far. We don't really know yet about the defense. So obviously that's something he's going to have to demonstrate catching on a minor league rehab assignment. Even if it's not okay, the Mets could potentially bring him back as a DH, but then that all of a sudden cuts into the playing time of potentially a Mark Vientos or a Starling Marte, which you don't necessarily want to do because those guys have been very hot. So ideally, and I do think there's still a hope that defensively he should be just fine, but offensively I think is the bigger issue, and so far so good for Alvarez in that regard.
Yeah, certainly encouraging news. All right, Tony, sit tight. We'll come back to you in a few. Dan, how should the Mets utilize Francisco Alvarez when he does return?
Well, that's a big surprise what Anthony said, because I don't think any of us expected him to be back in the mix here this soon, but I still worry about defensively, right? He's a catcher, not a designated hitter, and that's where his value is the greatest for this Mets team. I mean, if he can grip a baseball, he has no problems throwing down to second base or whatever it might be, then obviously put him behind the plate. But as Anthony said, that minor league rehab assignment's going to tell us a lot, because, there's already a logjam at designated hitter with this team. You mentioned Marte Vientos. They got Pete off his feet the other day just to get him a DH spot. So, I mean, adding another name to that DH mix, I think, is the last thing Carlos Mendoza wants to do at this point in the season.
Yeah, both Tony and Dan touched on this, but I think you first of all, I'd be a little bit concerned about his offense coming back, because hand stuff can be tricky. It can sap your power a little bit. So I don't know that you want to use up the DH spot on a guy who doesn't necessarily have a lot of power, especially because since he's been hurt, the Mets have gotten an 85 WRC plus at a catcher. That's fine. You would like to get Alvarez's offense in there. They've gotten a 122 WRC plus out of their DH. They don't necessarily want to take one of those guys who's currently DHing out of the lineup.
TC, how patient do you have to be here with a catcher coming back like that, whether it's defensively, offensively? Would you try to rush him back in there knowing there's only 30-something games left, or would you be ultra patient with Alvarez?
Well, he'll dictate that, I think, Sal, when you see him in the rehab assignment, when he goes down and faces live pitching. I think what Dan said is right. Hey, look, you got to see live pitching. Batting practice is great. You and I can hit the ball in batting practice, but all of a sudden you add a little velocity and a little movement. It'll tell some tales. But from when it first happened, the diagnosis was bad. Well, all of a sudden he's bounced back. So I think the rehab assignment will dictate how you use him. And if he gets through it and he feels great and looks good, he should catch.
At the very least, very encouraging to have him already taking swings this early in the process.